2023 is finally done, and with that, you all know what that means. My top 10 films of 2023 list is finally here. This was a toughie, I must admit. There was a lot of movies that I tried to include in this, but I just couldn't. They're all in the honorable mentions, and I would love to. This has to be the strongest year since 2019. There's so many films on this lineup that I would consider some of my favorites of the decade, and I'm really excited to talk to you all about them. So let's just hop right into the honorable mentions quickly, and then we'll get into the actual top 10 list. The honorable mentions are in no particular order, so let's just get started there. Alright, so starting off the honorable mentions is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Dream Scenario, Theater Camp, May December, Mission Impossible, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Blackberry, Poor Things, Godzilla Minus One, and Napoleon. So, with all those terrific honorable mentions out of the way, let's just hop right into this list. Starting off at number 10 is Celine Song's Past Lives. This is a debut feature from Song, and she pitched this to A24, and it was so well pitched that they decided that she'd be the one to direct it, and I think that was just a terrific decision because this is one of the best directed films of the year. Greta Lee is terrific in it as Nora, a character that I think we can all aspire to be, and once her character is confronted with these obstacles from past relationships, it really does become this Rorschach test about destiny and fate. I had a lot of conversations with different classmates about this film succumbing or being against fate, and I have my own thoughts about it, but I think it's best for you to just watch it and make your own thoughts on it. I can't move on to my next film without talking about Teo Yu's Hai Sung, who is just terrific in this film. I think he's very vulnerable, and each scene with him is very emotional, and especially those long takes that he has when he's by himself in his hotel room. I just think it's incredible. Moving on to number 9, we have Sean Durkin's The Iron Claw, a late-in-the-game film that caught me off guard. I really didn't know much about the Von Erichs or the whole wrestling era at that time. I know a little bit about, the main big wrestlers. Of course, I knew Ric Flair, but this family, their story really captivated me, and I do know that there is a lot of criticisms about these missing details and taking out one brother to tell the story, and I think those are valid criticisms, but I think it's also important to remember that the Von Erich family, the living members now, approved of the story that Durkin was trying to tell, and at the root of it, it is a story about brotherhood and a cautionary tale against violence and emotional abuse. I think that Zac Efron delivers the strongest performance of his career and just one of the strongest of the year. Each time he's on screen, you can see that vulnerability and the emotions weighing on him, but since he's such a stoic presence, almost like a Greek statue, it's very, very odd to see this on someone, and it plays into those beliefs back then that men really shouldn't cry. But it really blew me away, and I cannot wait for more people to watch it. I know it's only in limited theaters right now because A24's release model is a bit wonky, but I'm excited for more people to watch it, really. Coming in at number 8 is a precise film from an even more precise filmmaker, and that is David Fincher's The Killer. This late in the game, you really don't expect someone like Fincher, this really high auteur, to make a film off of a comic book, and it's a French comic book that I knew nothing about. But I think because of that unknown aspect to it, to me and to a lot of other American viewers, going into it like it is a comic book adaptation, but also as another David Fincher film, you went in a little blind, and within those first 20 minutes, I think that dictates if you're going to like the movie or not. Showing this methodical character going through the aspects, the small little details of killing someone and completing his hit, and based on what happens in that first scene and how the comedy is layered into it, I think it works in ways that I can't even explain, even though it's been like 2 months since I've seen it. But it's one that really worked for me, and I think that if you give it a chance, it might work for you. I don't know how to sway people to like this one more. I feel like it's a hit or miss for a lot of people, but it's a really, really big hit for me. Coming in at number 7 is John Wick Chapter 4 by Chad Stahelski. It's really the movie that had my attention for probably the whole first half of 2023. I couldn't stop thinking about certain shots in it. But I think from just an action movie standpoint, it honestly is one of the best that I have ever seen. I mean, it blends so many different genres, from the early era of Buster Keaton to samurai films to westerns to hiding cars and gunplay. And what it does with all of these elements is it creates a story built on consequences. We've seen John recklessly destroy his life and the lives of others for the past 3 films. That Chapter 4 is really about these consequences, and in some ways it does feel like this big cleansing, and to talk about it, it doesn't even feel like I'm doing it justice. It's really something that you have to see on the biggest screen possible. I really hope that they really re-release it and try to give it a little bit of an Oscar push. I know they're not going to, but John Wick Chapter 4 is really, really just a mind-blowing experience. The whole one take that they did with the eagle-eyed shot, it just, I don't know how they came up with that, and I don't know where this franchise goes next, but wherever it is, I will be there. Coming in at number 6 is Michael Mann's Ferrari. Mann has really become one of my favorite filmmakers in recent years because of the amount of work that he puts into each project. There is so much care in the craft that he does, and that is so evidently clear with Ferrari. Mann constructs a razor-sharp tale of grief within a troubled perfectionist like Enzo Ferrari, and alongside the familial dilemmas is really this edge-of-your-seat race car thriller that keeps you engaged from the moment it starts. I think that the race sequences are some of the best in recent memory, blowing Ford versus Ferrari out of the water, and there are moments in this movie that completely had my jaw dropped, and it really will blow you away if you go in completely blind. I did not know anything about this guy, and I want to read more. Coming in at number 5 is Justin Triet's Anatomy of a Fall, which is really a film that I put to the side, I feel, after I watched it the first time, because I was watching a lot of movies. But then I rewatched it again this week, and I just was blown away again by how smart it is. It's really just a smartly written movie, smartly directed movie. Triet uses language in ways that I can not even conceive. I don't know how she thought of using it in a lot of ways. It is a courtroom drama which is reminiscent of the classics from Otto Preminger, Alfred Hitchcock, and Sidney Lumet. And within those films from the 50s and the 60s, there are a lot of themes of justice and righteousness, and I believe that Anatomy of a Fall moves those themes 1 inch further and ask why. Why are the subjects in this film put in this place, and for what reason? And at its center, it is a film about family issues and how it deals with infidelity, jealousy, and the darkness within these marital relationships. You start to question more why than what actually happened. There is a lot of gray area in this film, and I think because there's a lot of unanswered questions and you're not being spoon-fed those answers, it's just the most engaging movie that you can watch this year. Now we're at the point of the video where I feel it was very hard to choose between 4 through 2. I think all these movies are terrific. I'm going to watch them every year. I'm going to cherish them for a long, long time. And I'm very excited to go through them with you. So, that said, number 4. Coming in at number 3 is Alexander Payne's The Holdovers. I've watched this film quite a few times already, and it's really just totally different than something like Oppenheimer, which is a large movie. This is a very quiet, small movie, but still has so much heart in it. Each scene, you can see these characters navigating their life, and they feel so lost, but finding solace and a home within one another, it's so refreshing. And that's the best word I can use to describe this movie. It doesn't feel like we get something like this every year, so a refreshing 1970s film about finding a home within one another and being a little bit corny, but also being fun, and also with Alexander Payne's like wit. It's really just like a perfect, fun movie. I think I'm gonna keep rewatching it every Christmas and Thanksgiving, every holiday season, and love it even more then. And I just cannot recommend this movie anymore. Coming in at number 2 is a movie that really came out of left field for me, but it's something that I just love more and more that I think about it, and that is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. It's a movie that's just so comfortable with being uncomfortable and acknowledging the gray areas of growing up. I think it perfectly captures the susceptibility of youth and the vast sea of possibilities at that age. It's really just a movie that I think young adults should be consuming, movies that address these issues. There's just so much tenderness, love, and care wrapped into it that it just feels like a warm blanket for me. And the issues in this movie that Margaret has, and especially with the religious beliefs and not knowing what she believes in, is something so big as a child. And it's something that I still face nowadays. Like, I don't know what to believe in, and I think it's okay to not know. You don't have to know at a certain age. It's something that will always be unknown to you until you find it, and then that's what you roll with. But me and Margaret, we both have this issue, and I think that it's something that's going to keep me coming back to this movie, and it feels very important to me. Drum roll. That was drum roll. Coming in at number 1 is, and I know the M word is thrown around quite a lot, but when I say it, I truly mean it. The masterpiece, Killers of the Flower Moon, by the master himself, Martin Scorsese. Scorsese's career, and in this past decade in particular, has been really fascinating because he flips the themes of violence and greed that he is very familiar with, and you saw in through the 70s and the 90s and with the films that he did then. But he shows the real gritty and just dark sides of it in ways that you really don't expect to come out of him. Something like The Irishman is a really good example of this. But seeing a real story like Killers of the Flower Moon play out, it's shocking, it's gut-wrenching, but it's also a story that needs to be told. And with what's going on in the world right now, and Scorsese's aware of that, it is also the most urgent and important film of his career. Can't talk about this movie, of course, without talking about the performances, and that is DiCaprio, Gladstone, and De Niro. All incredible. You know, it was really as advertised. They are so good in this movie, and I don't think I gave it enough credit on my first watch, but upon a second watch, it really is amazing. And Scorsese, how he decides to finish this tale, will shock you, move you, and just amaze you all at the same time. I think it really is far and away the best film of 2023. And with that being said, it was a great year for movies. It was a great year for movies. Like, I keep looking at the lineup, and I still feel like I'm missing a lot of movies from this list. I can't catch them all, obviously, and I'm sorry for making this a lot later. I feel like typically I'm on time with it, but this year just work and everything came up, and I was trying to catch as much as possible, but that's really just impossible to do everything. But thank you for watching. I know this is just what I love to do, and to share movies and talk about them is something I'm going to do each and every day of my life, but to do this every year is really just so much fun. So if you're watching this, thank you, and let me know what movies you love this year and which ones you're looking for 2024. Thank you so much. Have a good one, and Happy New Year.